Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 10 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, today, to kick off Season 10, I am very excited to welcome my friend Heather onto the Future Ready Librarians podcast. And as I was thinking about our schedule and looking at some of the podcasts coming up, I was really excited to ask Heather to be our first guest because we're going to talk about something so fun today, and that is Storywalks. And we've talked on our podcast before about Storywalks, but when Heather reached out to me about things that she's excited about and interested in, I think that everybody will love this story of just really thinking about how we can bring reading outside to our kids and what story walks really mean to a community. And so I'm very excited, Heather, to welcome you today to our
Thank
podcast.
you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. I loved meeting you in Connecticut in November, and it's just a pleasure to be on the podcast. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I am so happy that you're here. And Heather, I know that, well, first, let's start by telling us what you do for your job and where you're located.
Okay, so I'm in East Lyme, Connecticut. I'm at an elementary school that's kindergarten through fourth grade at Flanders Elementary. It's a lovely community. We have three different elementary schools in our town, and then they come together for middle school and high school. Very supportive, kind, caring, central office, superintendent, principals, and families too. Very active.
Oh, very good. Well, I know that you have been spending a lot of time in the last several years working on story walks. And so, just so everybody can get a picture of kind of what it has looked like for you, why don't you tell us just about the history behind putting story walks on your campus?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, we piloted the Story Walk just to see how it would go over with our community and our students and our teachers. So we did those little lawn signs that our PTA was kind enough to fund for us. And then we kind of scrambled a little to always get enough money to purchase usually two books because we usually owned one book in our library that I could use. And then we bought two others to cut apart and laminate and and put little Velcro on to take on and off the storyboards. We went all over our school campus. That was an interesting research project for me because we went to our outdoor classroom, which is like in the woods. We went around our playground area. We went to the other side of the building. So we tested the story walk for 3 years and tried to find a perfect location for it, which we finally did. And the like love and excitement and joy of going outside and being able to move and enjoy a story. And it just brought to light those kids that, you never know what you're going to hit with different things, whether it's like, coding or stick together, or you see different little kids light up. And when I went outside, the love and joy of some of those students, all of them loved it, but some I was like, wow, this means a lot. They begged me can I leave it out so they could bring their families back? Can I leave it out? Can I leave it out? And I tried to do it a couple times, but it's really hard to leave laminated pages out with the weather and the conditions in Connecticut. So I had to bring it in. But that drive and excitement from the kids is what got us to where we are today with finally a permanent story walk.
Oh, that's
Yeah, we're so excited. It's installed and up and you
oh,
can take any weather. So families have been, even though it's, February in Connecticut right now, families are so excited to go out and enjoy it and spend time with their loved ones. It's really
oh,
nice.
that's great. That is so awesome. And I'm sure that people are probably wondering, like, just the support. I think that that's a huge thing. When you do anything like this, we had like a book vending machine funded last year, and we're getting a story walk now installed. And those kind of things take more than just you, right? And so
Right.
tell us a little bit about, the support, not only for your, how it started, but how then you continue some ideas for people to think about.
Yeah. So I did, penny pinch in the budget to get the books in the beginning. And then as we went, I worked with the PTA and we started saving or collecting and putting money towards the story walk from our book fairs and our readathons. Those two were big fundraisers. And I kind of went year after year and asked, like, this is going really well. I think families would like it. The kids love it. They want you to come. So I kept like proposing it and they listened and they listened. And on year 3, we had an agreement that they would help us with the budget. I worked very closely with my principal, Daniel Showman. She was with me along every step because I was kind of alone in the process and I just needed someone to keep bouncing ideas off. And is this possible? Is this possible? I see this vision and I see where it's going. Can we do this here? Can we? And so she took some of her principal budget money to help. And then every time my superintendent, Jeff Newton, came to our building, I would just give him a little update on the story walk. I would pop in and say, "Hey, Jeff, how's it going? I just want to let you know the story walk is a huge hit. It's going really well. Come join us anytime." And he kept saying, if you need anything, Heather, let me know, let me know. And so I just tried to keep everyone in the loop. For families, I had guest readers. So I often said, would anyone like to come be a guest reader on our story walk? So parents came and lived it with me and their child and their class. So they saw the love and excitement. So I tried to, I included them in the
Yeah.
process.
That's so great. I know. And I think about like how excited your kids, when you said earlier too, just about that excitement about being outside and reading. And that's one thing that just like makes me so happy to hear is, like what it means to the kids and the support that you have gotten from it. That really speaks highly of what you've done, but also of your school community and what it means to these kids to be able to go out and know that there's always a fun new story walk there.
Yeah. Yeah. We really focus on the kids. It's always about the kids. And I do have to say too, I took pictures and videos for the 3 years. So I was always like putting it in my newsletter, sharing it. Like, I shared it with our superintendent and he shared it with the Board of Ed one day as a highlight. So I just wanted them to see like the kids actually outside loving reading a book and wiggling and running to the next one, skipping to the next one, walking to the next one. And then after the story, we'd often go to like, go to your favorite page or go to the page where there was a word you're wondering about, and we would just add little things, but it did. The love of reading, and we're in this unit right now with literature appreciation, like, and we talk a lot about like, where are you reading? Like, is it on a couch? Do you like being outside? Like, it's okay. Like, pick and choose,
Yeah.
joy and love. And it's amazing the just the social emotional, you can see those kids that need and want different ways to have fun and engage in literacy. And this is
Yeah.
one. This is like a home run, you know?
Well, and I think that's so great. And because I think it also sets kids up for just being lifelong readers and like lovers of like literacy and experiences that we can have through books and reading. And so that's another cool thing. And one thing that I think of as I think of what our story walk will look like once it's installed and what books we'll have. And I'm sure that that's something that people are wondering, like, how do you pick the books? Like, how do you go about doing that? Because you can't just take a book and make a story walk. And so there's a lot that goes into that too.
Yeah, so when you have the temporary one and you buy the books, you can, take them apart and just use the books as is and laminate that and put there. So like my world was open when I did it that way, and I didn't realize when I went to the permanent ones how difficult it was going to be. I was like, wow, this is a whole different process because now I'm taking the books and I have to have digital files and get a permission and approval to get them on the board. So that was my biggest challenge. It's typically 18 to 22 weeks before you hear back from publishers and authors and illustrators with their permission. I've had to be very patient and wait. But our first one we did was, I have to say, Alpha Breaths. I don't know. Have you read these? These are amazing mindful stories.
Oh, yes. I
So we
love
did this one in a temporary, and then the permanent one, we did Alpha Breaths 2, and it's perfect because it's winter and, the 26 ways of mindful breathing. Um, Sounds true. And the author and illustrator were so kind and generous in letting us start with this one. What I also realized is when you ask for permission, you want to give yourself a little wiggle room. Like we were going to get it installed and it got delayed a little bit with our building and grounds crew. And so we had to wait. It was supposed to go in August, and then it got pushed back to September. And so I had to keep going back to the publisher and saying, may I please have permission to share the story later? Because you have to tell them the time frame that you're going to have the story up. And now I've gotten very creative, and now I'm like, okay, can I please put it up sometime in the school year of 2025-26? Like for 3 months, may I please put your story up? I started really specific, like I'm going to have it up from, 8, 15, 20, 24 to 10, 1, 2024. And I got permission, and then I had to go back when things got bumps in the roads. But I have to say the ones that I have gotten, Drew DeWalt's The Day the Crayons Quit, they have responded so kindly that I can use it. I've gotten Kate Messner's.
that's
Yep.
a perfect one
Up in
too.
the Garden and Down in the Dirt. I mean, for the story walk, I was like, oh, perfect. And I've gotten Jory John's The Big Cheese. And we are working right now with Peter Reynolds and Andrea Calvin, and we're going to do The Dot and Going Places. So
Oh,
that's who I've had luck with. Like they've returned my emails. They've been so kind, and they've given me permission to put the stories up. But it did take like
a
a
while.
while. Yeah, you have to be
Yes.
patient.
Well, that's so great. And I love like the ideas and it's also so fun to think about like what books she'll pick and thinking about like the different times of year or your own
Mm.
community. And I think that makes it so special too, because that really ties into what it means to your community and your kids.
Yeah, this is where my principal, like we have sat with books and books and books to figure out the right books for the story walk for our community. With Read Across America, we do like a March Madness bracket, and we've thought about the books that the kids love, that the teachers love, and then we think about exposing them to new books. So we have great long conversations about which books are right. It's exciting and fun, and then you go ask and figure out what you can get approval for.
what you can do. Well, that is so fun. And so when people if they wanted to start with a story walk, where would you tell them to start?
Ooh. I would start small. I would start with the little signs. I'm trying to think. I have one here. I would start with just the basic,
Yeah.
where you can put them in. These are the laminated. And
Yep.
all I did was have 4 laminated, and I got my stories and I did it. And I think piloting it is huge to see how it would go over with your kids and community. I mean, I think it's win-win. I feel like kids are kids, especially at this age, the elementary, but it is an investment and there is a lot you sort of have to research before you figure out like which books and where would you put it and how am I going to pay for it?
Yeah.
The money is a big, but once the families and the teachers and your administration see it, it's kind of taken off. Like, so it's here on the weekends, and I've gotten responses of like, thank you so much. Now we can come on Saturday or Sunday, or, one of my students' little brothers or sisters always wanted to see what he was talking about. And so they're out there enjoying it. So once like you get it, it's like you get it going, it just kind of takes off.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that like anything like that, when kids can be part of that magic that happens when you do projects like this in your community, I think that it speaks volumes for not only what you're doing, but also just that community that you have. You're so lucky to have those relationships with your administrators and teachers and families too, because that's a win-win, right?
Yeah, it makes such a difference when you have the support. Yeah. Everyone's just on board with what is best for kids and the love and joy of reading and the excitement. And it is a win-win.
Well, you're doing a great job, my friend. And I'm so happy that we were able to share your story here. And I know that people might have some questions for you. And so tell everyone where they can find you on social. I know that you're on X and Instagram, and I'll include this in the notes too. But why don't you tell everybody where?
Great. Yeah, and you can reach out to my email too at Flanders. Yeah, it's Heather.Delouchry at elpsk12.org, but you'll see it on the website. If you go to Eastline Public Schools, Flanders Elementary, I'd love to talk to anyone about it. I have learned so much and I've gone up and down and up and down with some exciting things and then bumps in the road. And I would love to share it if anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Heather. I know I'll be reaching out, and so I'm so happy that you were able to share your story on the Future Ready Librarians podcast too.
Thank you.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future-ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or to my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help and support each and every one of you. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.